All right, good evening. Hey, what's going on, my friends? This is Turgon the Wise coming at you with a new video this evening. Today, I have a legit agenda. We're gonna just go through, talk about some priorities. I've been having some conversations with my in-game friends, and I thought it would be helpful to just record something to kind of talk through some of the best practices that I have when I think about which commanders I want to prioritize going into a season. Then we'll talk about some basic gearing recommendations for those commanders and wrap it up. So, this next season, we're preparing to play as Arnor, which has a ranged tier 4 unit, and we're going to be playing roleplay Rebuilding Glory Season 3 over again. And so, with that in mind, I created a short list of my commanders and what they do. And just I have this list just so I can kind of talk through a little bit, what I'm thinking as I'm going through. And part of the equation is, of course, what units I'm planning on running with these commanders. And that plays a role in that it's going to determine, especially once I get some of my buildings maxed out, what kind of prioritization I'm going to have on which units I'm going to conscript. So, if we're fighting evil, my Aragorn 2 is going to be going night build. With the superior hauberk and the full helm with blinding barrier on it, he's going to have a tremendous amount of burn damage mitigation on knights. So he'll be rolling with knights. He's a physical damage dealing commander. That's what DD stands for, in case you're wondering. The other DD commanders I have is Gimli and Dwalin. Now, Dwalin is not going to be someone that I'm planning to use in PvP because I have Gimli. So, I'm really only using Dwalin in the early stages of the season to help farm tiles, and he's got a tremendous amount of healing that he can do. So that helps to kind of mitigate troop loss as you're going through the early stages of the season and getting yourself built up. So really, I'm not planning on using him for PvP purposes, but I will level him up to a certain point, probably 30, 35-ish, and then he'll flatline out unless I somehow learn something that necessitates he is, added into the PvP mix and leveled higher, and then I'll focus his gear a little bit more. Uh, to round things out, so those are my three DD comms, physical DD. And then I also have Galadriel that I'll be using as a focus damage dealing commander. She'll roll with cataphracts or guards at the tower. And that's going to depend on what kind of enemies I'll be facing. And mostly, I would only use her to face either light side armies, or if we're fighting dark side armies, I'll be looking to hit like Khaldoons, Kyruns, perhaps Sunids. So she's a good piece to have for that, good tool in the toolkit. Now on the men's side, we're going to go men army. So this is meaning that the army is going to be doing the damage, not the commander. I think of this group, Faramir probably has the best damage output of these four commanders. Four, one, two, three, four. Yep. And they're all ranged other than Theoden. And Theoden's another one that I probably won't be using in a PvP setting much, if at all. I don't have the best gear on him, but again, he's going to be another guy. He's got good healing, and since I'll have horses early, he probably is a good commander for helping me take some tiles and get myself farmed up, just like Gandalf the Grey. GTG. I won't be able to use Gandalf with ranged early, so the range there is more with PvP in mind, but I would only PvP with Gandalf the Grey against, like Witch Kings and other evil side armies. If anyone has white councils, good against evil armies, especially orcs and Urukai. So since we're playing Arnor, we're going to be in proximity to evil factions like Angmar, Gundabad, and Isengard. So there's some solid potential that he might be beneficial in a PvP setting. with the White Council. So that's why I'm keeping him on my list there. And then the Sealdoor is a project that I'm working on, and I'll continue working on him throughout the season. As I get his rep up, I may reprioritize some of Faramir's gear and repurpose it over to Sealdoor. So I don't think I'll use all four of those guys for PvP. Probably two, maybe three tops. But we'll see. It's one of those things where you have to play it by ear, so it's better to kind of just have some sort of a base layer of gear on them and set it like similar to Dwalin. I'll level them up to like 25, 30, 35. It'll be good for taking tiles and stuff. And then if I need to strap on some better gear on him, I can look to do that if I need some sort of a solution where Cav is required. Theoden will be my man. And once I get a Sealed or a couple more levels in rep, um, I might decide to strip some of the gear off Faramir and put him on a Sealdoor because I think he's going to be better all round. And then on the elf side, I also have Haldir and Gilgalad. Now, Gilly is, one of my mains, so he's just a staple of my army. I'll be using him pretty much no matter what, but I won't have him early game because you unlock elves third as Arnor. So I probably won't do anything with him early in the season, and then at some point, pretty early on, your tips start counting for Commander XP, so I'll get him up to about level 20 just through throwing him at some tips. And then once I have elves unlocked, I'll start throwing him into battle and leveling him up that way. But that will be probably at least 10 days into the season until that happens, maybe 2 weeks. So we'll see how that goes. The early part of the season is a little different because of, you have to evolve as your buildings and your farm evolves, your capabilities evolve, and how you use your commanders evolve. What kind of tiles you're taking, what opponents are you facing? You learn answers to these questions, and that kind of reformats, what it is you do. And by about the third or fourth week of the season, you should have a pretty good idea who you're fighting. You should have established some farm. You should have a bunch of buildings unlocked. And then you can go about really setting this in stone as opposed to just kind of having, a template. I would never run 10 commanders. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I would never run 10 commanders in PvP. There's no way that you can man 10 armies. You can't fully outfit really 10 armies, maybe with a full barracks, but it's going to be tight, and then you won't have anything for backup. So those are my thoughts just regarding kind of which commanders I'm picking. I'm thinking about having my Aragorn versus dark side opponents, but if we don't end up fighting dark side opponents, or if I need him to fight light side opponents, then I'll switch stuff around and make him viable in that setting. Gimli is going to be good all around, so those are going to be my two primary PvP damage dealing commanders. I already explained my thought process with the Galadriel, and then these men armies with the ranged and stuff. Those are going to be the kind of the backbone because those ranges of the north are going to be really good on commanders like Isildur and Faramir, and probably Gandalf as well, along with sharpshooters. So I want to do a lot of range damage this season, but you need to balance that out with some physical damage dealing commanders, and having Galadriel is a good asset as well. And then being able to back stuff up with another, just to throw another look at your enemies, having a Gilgalad or a Haldir will come in handy. In terms of gearing, so I already walked through kind of my Aragorn. The weapon's going to stay the same. More than likely, the accessory is going to stay the same. What I might do, and you might have saw this in one of my other videos, is I changed his fire protection, this over to fire protection, in anticipation that I'll be fighting evil, but I could certainly put Shroud or even Melee Vigor and level that up instead. And then we also have the Blinding Barrier Full Helm. We can do Melee Vigor on this one as well. And then run him with like Guardians or something. And then he's just as viable as a damage dealing commander versus light side. So that's my thoughts with Aragorn. With Galadriel, this is not the gear I would use for her in a PvP setting, but it should do for the early game. for help having another commander that I can use that has heals that will take tiles, but she needs a lot of skill points to really bring that heal into bear. You use a lot of the first probably 15, 20 levels just finishing out this R0 tree, Mistress of Magic, and pumping points into Nyanya's Guardian or I5. So it takes a little while for her to come online, even as a tile taker, which is why I didn't prioritize her for gear. So that'll kind of evolve. And later, if I decide I need her more and Gandalf less, then I'll rip pieces off of Gandalf and put them on her, like the pipe, perhaps the helmet. And there are other things that could precipitate me changing her gear. If I come up with another one of these gray wizard hats, I'll probably break this into pieces because I want all the pieces that went into this, and I'll pump it into leveling up my determination helm here. There's my Gimli. Nothing really is going to change with him other than maybe his accessory. I think the quilted armor is good versus light side and dark side. If you come across dark side, he's going to be your guy you're going to want to use against Sauron because he stops healing. He's got a lot of focus damage protection. I've got anti-madness on him. I'm going to primarily be running him with War Rams, or I'm sorry, the Ram Riders. I don't know why I like to call them War Rams so much. Ram Riders and Guardians are going to be his two units that he's going to be using. If I'm not facing elves, I'll probably swap out the Strums for something else. I think, yeah, I got another Heath Lane over here on Dwalin. Like, I'll probably swap these out or something. For Faramir, he's completely decked out in ranged gear. I've got Hysteria on the Trapper's Hood. If I use him, I'll probably swap this out with a different trait, like with ranged vigor or something like that. Because if I'm using him for PvP, then the ranged vigor will be good if I use all ranged units with him. Um, then that'll save me from having to use some horses and give me more horses to be able to use on other commanders that need horses. So that's a consideration to have. But the bow is going to boost his range by 9%, the fireworks 9%, and you get 3 on the base, another 3 on the base, another 3 on the base, and another 20% during the first 2 rounds there. So his damage over the first 2 rounds is ridiculous. I just tested this actually against some red book and was pretty pleased with the results. I was able to get through a red book with him. I'm gonna skip Dwalin because, like I said, I'm just using him for tile taking. HP, more focus protection, and might focus speed, good for a commander. And then if I have Guardians or Ram Riders on him, then the defense is gonna be really, really good. The might's good for him, and then the Shatter is also good, especially with the War Rams. It doesn't stack with the War Rams, but the War Rams could put it on one unit and he could put it on a different unit, and then you've got negative, whatever percent defense on both enemy units, and that's a good day. Just some thoughts there. Gilgalad, everyone knows my Gilgalad, so I'm gonna skip over him. You know what I do with him. I buff attack and elf damage with the knife. I buff elf damage with the harp, defense, madness and stun immunity with the Aegis, more defense. So that's all I basically do with him. I showed Gandalf already, so since I'm going to be running horses with them, I'm going to go with the men's strength for now and leave the other Carver on Galadriel. I may swap them because when the focus procs on this guy, that could trigger more healing for him. So I might just play around with that and see which one I like more. Melee Vigor, reducing melee damage by 6%. More defense, more might, more focus. Stun immunity, so this is pretty much my anti-Witch King build here. More focus and more heal. Theron, I just slapped what gear I have left on him. I mean, the Maris Reigns are really the only piece that I used with him last season. And the Horseman's Helm for Madness immunity, working up a third quilted armor. and the spear is aight. It's not leveled nearly enough, or upgraded nearly enough, but it'll do for now. Like I said, I'm just planning on using him to take tiles, so no big deal there. And then Haldir, he also is looking pretty schmexy in terms of the range damage with the maxed out Elven Dirk, another 9% there. Got pursuit on him. I gave him the pursuit harp so that I didn't need to use those talent points. That could be handy, especially early game if I'm coming up against Gilgalads, if I'm going up against other commanders that have evasion in their kit, like let's say Undying. I believe Grima uses it, so it can come in handy. And then also another Hysteria Hood here, more ranged attack, and of course I've got his unique, so just good stuff all around for him. So that's really it. That's all my guys. There's my sealed, or you can see what I mean, I just kind of slapped on some stuff, whatever I had left over. So I'll reprioritize him. If I can get him up to R5 and higher, he'll become more of a presence in my lineup. He's got the Dirk, he's got the Scale Mail. I just threw this on him to throw this on him because I don't really have anything better I could put on. Oh my god, put on this brutal helmet. Super cool. I'm sure that would be great. And then the fireworks here, just for a little heal. But like I said, I'll probably later in the season swap out the fireworks with Faramir with him. Figure out something with Faramir. Because I probably am going to use Faramir over Haldir. Haldir I would like to use with either bears or eagles tanking up front, um, to use the beast training. If I don't put these points in beast training, I'll probably finish out shield training and throw some points in fortify. Or I could pump some points in here, buff up his damage and stuff, but I don't really think I'm going to do that. I think it'll be more, those points will be better spent over here, but I'd like to use them in the beast training. I just need to get some sort of a beast that I can use to tank with him up front, and I might not, have access to that early in the season. We'll see how it goes. So those are my thoughts regarding all those things. I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know if you have any questions, comments, feedback, and as always, take care of yourselves and stay well. Cheers.